Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is called the Bearded Lady. And as always, it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. We'll start with a shaker with no ice. We're going to dry shake it. To that, we're going to add raspberry syrup, half an ounce. Next, gin, 2 ounces. Two ounces of gin. Elderflower liqueur, one of my wife's favorites. 3/4 ounce. Lemon juice from the plastic bottle. 3/4 ounce. Then egg whites. 1 egg white, which is about 2 tablespoons. Then we perform our dry shake for 10 to 15 seconds to emulsify the egg whites. Next, we add our ice. And we shake again until well chilled. Then we double strain. So we're going to strain it into 1 glass. Then we're going to strain it again into our cocktail glass. Look at that, boys and girls. And we garnish with raspberries. There you have it, the Bearded Lady. It's pretty good. Thanks for watching, boys and girls. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See ya.
Some people spend their whole lives trying to fit in and looking for their tribe. But that isn't the case in this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Freaks. The circus performers in this movie have not only found their tribe, but have actually become family. Hurt any one of them, deal with the consequences of all of them. It's definitely nice to know someone always has your back, but this also goes to show you, you never know who you're messing with. Before you start gold digging, better check out the family first. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
Doing great, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay.
Just okay. It was a beautiful day today.
It was a beautiful day, but I had to work, Karen.
No, that
I
does
did
put
get
a
out.
damper on things.
I did get out and get my walk in and, did a little shopping,
Shopping. You went to the liquor store?
Oh, I went to Walmart because I needed raspberry syrup, Karen, apparently.
Oh,
But we'll get to it. Thank you for asking, by the way, Karen.
it's what we do.
All right, Karen, I believe this week's film was your choice, was it? Was it not?
It was.
And tell us, Karen, what film have you chosen for us this week?
I chose the 1932 film Freaks.
Any reason you chose that film, Karen? Any reason at all?
Well, Greg, I believe it came out in February of 1932.
You are correct, Karen. February 12th.
I do love to be correct.
So, a couple weeks ago.
It's kind of been on my list. I've seen it in multiple lists of horror movies you should see. So when
Really?
it came, I'm surprised too.
Okay.
It was on my radar and then it came out this month. So let's give it a whirl.
It is by Todd Browning, who, did the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and he's done lots of good films. So
I'm not saying this isn't a good film. I think it is a good film.
we'll get to it, Karen.
Do
we have a cocktail to enjoy while we discuss this cinematic gem from 1932?
We do, Greg.
And what would that be, Karen?
The cocktail for this week is called the Bearded Lady.
And how would one make such a concoction?
You're going to need 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of elderflower liqueur, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 0.5 ounces of raspberry syrup, and 1 egg white. And if you're fancy like Greg, 3 fresh raspberries to garnish. In a cocktail shaker, combine the gin, elderflower liqueur, lemon juice, and raspberry syrup. Add the egg white and perform a dry shake without ice for 10 to 15 seconds to emulsify everything. I've never heard that term before. I learned something
Emulsify?
already.
Or dry shake?
Dry shake. Did you know what? Yes, I know what emulsify means.
No, I hadn't either, but
dry
like
shake was a
dry
bar.
shake. We're gonna dry shake tonight, boys and girls.
It's not quite as fun as muddling, but it's still a
That's
good term.
True. If we could combine both of those in one drink, oh my God. Think of it, Karen.
I like when I learn bartending things. Add ice to the shaker and shake again until well chilled. Double strain in the cocktail into a chilled coupe glass. Garnish with 3 fresh raspberries on a cocktail pick. So I do not have a coupe glass. I'm going to go to Goodwill or something and see if I can find one.
It's like a martini glass, whatever.
Well, it's
Close
got
enough.
I know, but we've had a couple drinks with it. If I can find it for like less than $1 at Goodwill, I'm all in on that.
Okay.
And I could not find raspberry syrup anywhere I went. So mine is strawberry.
Probably still delicious.
It is delicious. It's very dainty. It's pink because of the syrup.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a nice foam on it from the egg white, which we've never had an egg white in our drink.
Nope.
Yet. You can't taste it. Doesn't taste
and
it.
It's raw. It's raw egg, Karen.
Well, mine's from a carton. Is it
Me
yours?
too. Yeah. But still, it's raw. I feel like Rocky Balboa. Drinking my eggs.
Getting a little protein. Yeah, I think
this is the first double strain cocktail we've done too, Karen.
And to be fair, I did put ice in my glass because I'm a slow sipper and I don't like when the drink gets warm. So I have just 2 small ice cubes in there to keep it cool. But yeah, I think it's delicious. I'm surprised. I didn't even know if I'd like it. But I think I like elderflower liqueur. And I do like gin.
It is one of my wife's favorites, elderflower liqueur.
You should make this for her and see if she likes it.
I have more to say about it later.
No, you don't like it?
We'll get to it.
It looks like
Got to keep to the script, Karen. Keep to the script.
So sorry. I think it would be a good shower or ladies' brunch or something drink because of the color and the.
Not that you would. It's not a good shower drink to drink in the shower.
No, baby shower or wedding shower or something. It's very ladylike. All right, sorry. Please proceed.
Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own bearded lady?
Of course.
I don't really think of bearded lady being very dainty, Karen, or whatever word you used. But whatever. I guess it's because the foam.
Yes.
Foamy head makes it a bearded lady. And plus the raspberries they got little hairs on them, I noticed. All right, boys and girls, go make your own. Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
I do.
Go on, tell us all a story from 1932 about the circus.
When trapeze artist Cleopatra learns that circus midget Hans has an inheritance, she marries the lovesick, diminutive performer, all the while planning to steal his fortune and run off with her lover, strongman Hercules. When Hans's friends and fellow performers discover what is going on, they band together and carry out a brutal revenge that leaves Hercules and Cleopatra knowing what it truly means to be a freak.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match. And right here, I feel compelled to say that a lot of the words we may use in this episode may not be all that politically correct. I don't even know anymore, Karen. But I am going to be reading a review later from 1932, and there may be words in there that are not so nice today.
These are not our words. Instead of midget, I said little person.
Right, me too.
And instead of freaks, which that's how they describe the performers, I said performers.
I did too. I said circus performers.
Yes.
Or sideshow performers. It's generally what I said.
I've changed my vocabulary. It's not, when we're reading things, we're reading what's in front of us and what was written by someone else. When we're speaking about it,
probably
I've
in the
changed
1930s.
I'm not sure about the synopsis, but it's hard to say. But certainly the review you're going to read is from the 1930s.
Absolutely it is. So there you go, boys and girls. Take that for what it's worth. We're not trying to offend anybody. All right, let's get into it, Karen. Tell me everything you enjoyed about this film, or things you were pleasantly surprised by, things that made you go, that's kind of cool. Anything?
I think I'll just start off. I think the actor who played Hans and the actor who played Frida were probably the best actors in the whole movie. I thought they were really good. I think the acting was good overall. I think the sets were kind of cool for the time, and you could tell it was a circus, no question. There are actually some kind of funny jokes in it, especially with the Siamese twins and their prospective fiancés. And there's just a couple of kind of funny camaraderie kind of jokes that are made me laugh. So I thought that was good. I liked that they cast real performers. And it was interesting to see how well they acted through the whole thing. I liked it. I think it's a good movie. What do you think? What did you like about it?
First thing I have written down is good actors. They were both very good. I was very impressed. Which I don't know why not sure why we should be. I mean, they're performers, right?
True.
All of the sideshow, I call them performers, they were all good, like you said, and somewhat surprising. So, because some of them are, I'm sure are mentally challenged, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at least they were able to take direction well, if nothing else. You know what I mean? You could tell they were good. And actually, some of them were freaking amazing. The way like the half man walked around on his arms.
Well, that's not acting. That's what he does
I
all
know.
the time.
That's what I'm saying. It's amazing. At one point, we kind of have a montage, Karen, kind of all the circus performers showing off their skills.
Yes.
That's part. They're not. It's just as part of the story, right? Like we see the guy who has no arms and no legs. He can light himself a cigarette.
Yes, he can.
A hand rolled cigarettes, Karen. So I'm not sure how he did that, but he had no problem lighting it, opening a box of matches and lighting it. He's got the match in his mouth and the cigarette in his mouth at the same time, lighting his cigarette.
I knew you would like that.
Oh my God. It's freaking amazing.
Greg's going to be practicing at home. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, I guess we probably shouldn't be surprised, like you said, but it was amazing
That's all they
to
know.
see their abilities.
Yeah, if they couldn't, adapt and get on with life, they'd be in a hospital somewhere.
Well, they wouldn't have a life. So
exactly.
they've learned to. So it was good to see people with disabilities functioning in life, which I'm sure is, and we still don't see that in movies, especially. So, well, that's what I meant, in movies. We see it around us, but not in movies. It's not normally depicted. And these people that were in this movie acting these parts had severe disabilities, some of them. And to see how easily they went through with the movie, the script and the timing and all of those things, working around the cameras, sure, hitting their spots, whatever. You never noticed anything that didn't look like it was professional from start to finish.
And it's obvious in the film, they are not depicted as victims or helpless at all. We are getting along fine, thank you. And if you mess with one of us, you got to deal with all of us.
Yes, they do have a very strong bond together.
I did write down that there were some good shots in it, especially in the climax.
I agree.
During the rainstorm and everything, when there's
some nice lighting, shadow work, and
that's all I got, Karen.
I liked the costumes in that the little person who was Frida and Hans both dressed impeccably.
Yes.
They all dressed really well, but especially Frida and Hans. They looked amazing.
Yeah, the guy the half man with no bottom dressed very nice too, in a suit jacket. And
the clothes, she had the shoes, it was like the 1930s, 40s that I like, that kind of clothing she had. Was jealous of her wardrobe. But there was attention to detail that way. And I think you could tell he respected the performers.
All right. Anything you didn't like? Did not enjoy?
There's a lot of kind of fluff in it, which I guess gives you circus life, but wasn't really needed. But it's only an hour. So it almost would play better as a play than a movie, I think. Just because you don't need the base story is so simple, doesn't need a lot of the other stuff put in, but I get why they did it. And it wasn't hard to watch, but it is a little meandering at times, going off in different directions of who's dating who and who's going where. And I think it's to show that they're normal people falling in love and having quarrels and all those things, which is nice. But, and then I don't know if this is a true, I mean, it's my kind of an opinion, or at least how I felt at the end. They kind of demonized the performers with what they did to Cleopatra and Hercules. Their revenge
deserved, Karen.
Their revenge was a little over the top. And the other thing is, and we've talked about this with other movies before.
Was it?
This was more of a drama than a horror story.
Yes, this is not a horror film.
But they call it a horror film in many, many reviews that I've seen over time. It is called a horror film.
Yeah,
but it's more like almost a soap opera.
Horror film. Yeah.
It's like a circus soap opera with a horrific ending.
Yeah.
But it's very soap opera-y, if that makes sense. And it's not that I didn't like that. It's just, I don't know what I expected, but there's not, the performers doesn't make it horror. The ending, I guess, could make it horror, but we don't really see a lot. We have to imply that there's something horrific at the end. So I wouldn't call it a horror film.
I don't either.
Is there anything you didn't like?
It's not a horror film.
But it's categorized like that if you look it up.
I know, but it's choppy. It feels like it's just this and that thrown together.
Well, partly that might be from
editing. It feels like Todd Browning is trying to be shocking and sympathetic at the same time. He's trying to shock the audience, but also make them feel sympathetic towards these people.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it, in the limited research I did, I think it was a lot longer, and they cut out like 40 minutes of it. But I don't know what that 40 minutes was. Was it just more soap opera stuff and more performers doing their thing or whatever?
Yeah, I did read that there are a couple different endings.
I only saw one. Did you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But
no. I'm sorry. One alternate one.
Oh, where a couple. Yeah.
So I will say this was banned in the United Kingdom for 3 decades and is still technically illegal to screen in portions of the US. Using actual disabled actors to portray the circus performers in the movie's Freaks was viewed as exploitive to some. Do you want to talk about alternative endings now or at the end of the movie?
We can talk about it at the end.
Okay.
I think. Anything else you didn't like?
No, I liked it overall. I was impressed.
Yeah, it was okay. I would have liked to seen more of the Venus character. I think she's wasted in this a little bit.
Yeah, her friendship with Frida. Yeah.
Like she was introduced kind of late and I'm like, okay, who is this?
She's kind of the moral compass. She's the hinge kind of the morality of the whole thing too.
Yeah, so I liked her. Could have seen more of her, but yeah, that's it. And it wasn't a horror film. All right, before we give our cocktail rating, would you like to hear a review of the time?
Of course. Let's see what they had to say back in Critics Corner.
First, I'll tell you, Karen, this film has a 95% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
7.8 out of 10 on IMDb. What do you think Google users think, Karen?
See, I'm not going to let those Rotten Tomatoes ones, when they're high, Google's lower. I know it's lower. So 78 to 95, 85%.
Ding, 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 ding,
yes!
ding. You are correct, Karen.
I went in the middle.
85% of Google users like this film. All right, so the review I have is from, as I mentioned earlier, Variety. And as I mentioned in previous episodes, this is dated 12/31/31, which all old Variety articles are dated. They're all dated New Year's Eve for some reason, the year before they come out, I guess. Anyway, it's pretty short. I'll paraphrase very slightly. Freaks is sumptuously produced, admirably directed, and no cost was spared. But Metro failed to realize that even with a different sort of offering, the story still is important. Here it is not sufficiently strong to get and hold the interest, partly because interest cannot easily be gained for a too fantastic romance. The plot outline is the love of a midget in a circus for a robust gymnast, her marriage with the idea of getting his fortune and putting him out of the way through poisoning and effecting a union with the strong man of the show. The story is laid in a European touring circus. It is only a one-ring affair, but it carries 3 times as many high-class freaks as the Ringling Show ever trooped in one season, and the dressing tent is larger than the main top. No effort is made to show the ring performance, most of the action occurring in the dressing tent, and much of it while the show is closed. The midget leads are Harry and Daisy Earls. Earls builds on his fine performance in The Unholy Three, which is from 1930, but he fails in the stronger scenes when he seeks to gain sympathy through his despair. Daisy Earls is less successful as the midget rival to Olga Baklanova. She is a doll-like little woman who reads her lines with extreme care but seldom succeeds in acting.
Really?
I disagree.
I liked her.
Baklanova, as a rather rowdy gymnast, has several fine opportunities, but at other times is handicapped by the action too obvious, and her cheerful effort to poison her tiny spouse carries no suggestion of menace. Harry Victor, as the strongman, is conventional, and Wallace Ford and Leela Hyams, heading the cast, have little more than walk-through parts. The one sincere human note is Rose Dione in an unfortunately brief bit. Oh, there you go. Rose Dione. Oh, she's Madame Trelawney.
Yeah.
And Daisy and Harry are brother and sister.
Oh, not married.
No, they're siblings. They're part of a performing troupe. There was 4 of them, and they were like were a quartet, and performed.
Well, that could be one reason they couldn't muster up that romance.
I thought they were very good, though.
They had chemistry, though.
They had charisma.
But they had chemistry together.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, if you're siblings, you've known that person for a long time.
Probably all your life, Karen.
I would say for sure.
I wouldn't know. I assume. All right, Karen, what kind of cocktail rating do you want to give this film?
I really liked it. Like I said, it was very easy to watch. It was choppy, like you said, and I alluded to with it went off in different directions where it didn't really need to go. But I wonder with the missing footage if it would have made a little more sense and flowed a little more.
It would have been too long then, though.
It's only an hour.
I know, but it's long enough.
True, for that one story, yes. There is only basically one story, but they could have followed other ones like other movies do. But I get it. So I think it's a 3. As we've talked about, I don't think it's a horror film, but I think it's an interesting film. And I think it's a film that I'm glad that I can say I've seen it.
Okay, I agree. It's a 3. I'm not so much glad that I can say I've seen it, but it's fine.
It's just been on a lot of lists and I've seen it around. And there are other movies that are on lists like that I'm like, meh. But this one was interesting. I was fascinated by, like you said, the guy who could light the cigarette with his match. And it was also Todd Browning that did, what was the one with Joan Crawford and the circus theme? The Unknown, where there was the guy that did the feet.
Yep.
That was fascinating. This one quadruples that because there are multiple people using their feet.
But The Unknown is a better film than this.
Yes, it is.
It's a silent film, so it predates this, but it's better.
It is, but I was fascinated then by the abilities of the man who used his feet to do the things he was doing, and this one has multiple people doing that. So it's interesting what people do when they have to adapt.
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do. So The Unknown was 1927, and this is 1932. This came out the year after Dracula, which doesn't seem right, but whatever. Didn't we do The Devil Doll too?
We did, I think, yeah.
With all the little little tiny people in it.
That were dolls, yes.
Yeah. All right. 3 cocktails.
Is there anything we need to talk about before we get into the film, Greg?
Well, you know, Karen, March is just a couple days away.
Or
And you know what that
anything
means?
else? Or anything else we need to talk about? Because we talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah. Well, it means it's my birthday month. Is that what you're talking about? You're going to go get me a present?
Besides that, Karen.
What else could possibly be going on in March that was significant besides my birthday?
There's a little basketball tournament.
Oh, I think I've heard of it. Little madness involved.
Yeah, I think it's March Madness. But Karen, you and I thought it would be fun to have our own little horror movie bracket for the month of March.
We did,
we,
didn't
or
we?
did we
Yeah,
not?
we did.
So we each picked our 8 favorite movies that we've done here on the podcast.
That we've reviewed, yes.
And we've picked our 8 favorites and we've seeded them, and we're going to have a horror movie tournament.
But not just for us.
No, because we can't pick the winners because we're not impartial.
No. We have sentimental favorites. We have, so we need help from our listeners.
We do. We need lots of help, Karen. Lots of help.
Well, absolutely.
So we'll be posting in our social medias and on our website a link to SurveyMonkey website where you can pick the winner between our choices.
So every week, so we're starting with what? Sweet 16?
Yep.
Then going to Elite 8.
Yep.
Final 4.
And then championship game, the last week of March.
So the important one is to get a good championship one so I can win over Greg.
Yeah. So the championship game will be between my film that wins and Karen's film that wins.
That's the only time we directly compete with each other. Otherwise, we're competing against ourselves.
Yes. And also in the one of the questions is you can enter your email address to be entered into a contest. We will be giving away 5 copies of Scream 6 Blu-rays. Got 5 copies of them.
Ooh.
Generously donated.
They're brand new, though.
They are. Still sealed in plastic and everything.
But you don't have to put your email in to vote. You can vote without your email. But if you want
to win Scream 6 on Blu-ray, you want a chance. And we got 5 of them, so you probably got a pretty good chance.
Yes, you do. But if you have hang up about putting your email in, don't worry, you don't have to do that. You can still vote for my movies and defeat Greg in the end.
I'm going to cut all that out, Karen.
See, I'm already at a disadvantage. I'm already the underdog. I need a Cinderella story. I know all the terms. I'm a bracketologist.
All right, so please go to the link, pick your favorite movie in each head-to-head showdown, and put your email address in there if you want to win. It'll be fun.
You too can be a bracketologist.
All right, moving on. Are you ready to get into the film, Karen, or anything else we need to cover?
Well, there's a couple other things I want to talk about just before we start. I did look up Todd Browning, and he's got an interesting little backstory that I thought would fit well with this. It says Browning was fascinated by the circus and carnival life as a child, and at the age of 16 and before finishing high school, he ran away from his well-to-do family to join a traveling circus. Remember when people used to say that? Did they ever say that to you? What are you going to do? Run away and join the circus? Initially hired as a roustabout, he began serving as a spieler, like a barker, and by 1901 was performing song and dance routines for Ohio and Mississippi riverboat entertainment, as well as acting as a contortionist for the Manhattan Fair and Carnival Company. He developed a live burial act in which he was billed as the living hypnotic corpse and performed as a clown with the renowned Ringling Brothers Circus. So he drew on these early experiences to inform his cinematic inventions.
So he's circus folk. So that explains why he probably connected with these people.
It explains his empathy and sensitivity, that's for sure. He's circus people.
Going back to what we like, though, it's something I didn't say is how for lack of a better term, the regular actors performed with the sideshow performers. They actually seem to have a bond, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a
They felt like
camaraderie that you
equals.
felt it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to get into it, Karen?
Yes.
Freaks 1932. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
And the link is in the show notes, boys and girls. If you want to give us a penny and want to watch this film, click on the link and rent it. So we got violence, alcohol use, smoking, foul language, and sexual content.
Rated 13 plus
Not enough.
of any of them.
The film is actually non-rated by
Oh,
the Motion Picture Association or whatever, but Amazon calls it 13 plus because that's not a real rating, right?
right. No, it's not.
So the film opens, we got credits.
Okay, so stop. We see the movie poster and it says it's suggested by a Todd Robbins story called Spurs. So I looked that up, and it is a short story that Todd Robbins wrote. It published in February 1923 in Munsey's magazine, and it was included in Robbins' 1926 short story collection, Who Wants a Green Bottle? But the plot summary of that is, in a small traveling circus in France, dwarf performer Jacques has fallen in love with the troupe's bareback rider, Jean Marie. He proposes marriage and she accepts because she has learned of his recent large inheritance. She is really in love with her partner, Simon, and she plans to marry him after what she believes will be an imminent death for Jacques. At the couple's wedding feast, Jean Marie drunkenly insults her new husband, declaring that she could carry her little ape on her shoulders from one side of France to the other. A year later, Jacques has retired and taken Jean Marie to live on his estate. One night, Simon discovers Jean Marie on his doorstep. She begs him for protection from Jacques, who is forcing her to make good on her cruel taunt and carrying him a distance equal to the width of France on her shoulders. And then it says it was adapted by Todd Browning and MGM, but little remained of the original story source material other than the marriage of a wealthy dwarf to an average sized performer. In this case, a trapeze artist, and the wedding feast. So there's a significant amount still in there.
One thing that jumps out at me about that, Karen. So both Todd Browning and Todd Robbins spell their first name T-O-D.
Yes.
Was that a thing in the 30s? Or
I don't know. Maybe. I saw that too. I don't know. You don't
all
need
the
that
Todds
other
I
one.
know have two D's.
It's not ta-da-da.
They're double D's, Karen.
Yes. I don't know. I don't know if it's short for something.
Okay. Curious.
Greg and I are both so excited that you're listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, and we would love to hear from you. Do you have a movie suggestion for us? Or possibly a favorite drink you'd like us to try? Or maybe you just want to say hi. If so, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the show. Okay, proceed past the credits.
And we see, I say, a sideshow barker after the credits. And here's where he tells them that, there's like a pact or whatever amongst sideshow performers that if you offend one, you offend them all.
But he's talking about having what he calls living, breathing monstrosities. But offend one, offend them all. And then
he basically walks all the people over to like a big box.
Yes.
There's a couple big boxes we see in this room, and he walks them over to one and says, "Behold," or whatever. And the people look down in there, and immediately one woman screams.
Was once a beautiful woman.
But we don't see what they're looking at.
A royal prince shot himself for love of her, and she's known as the Peacock of the Air because she's a trapeze artist.
And I wrote, they look down into a box that Cleopatra question mark. I don't know.
And a woman screams.
Then we go to a flashback. So this whole movie is basically a flashback.
Yeah, I think the Barker's telling the story.
I do too. So then we see Cleopatra, or who we learn is Cleopatra, on the trapeze.
Okay, stop. Where does the trapeze originate from, Greg? Would you guess? What country do you think came up with the trapeze?
I don't know if that's because we've mentioned it several times, but France is the first thing that popped in my
Yes,
head.
it is France. The trapeze was invented in 1859 by a French performer named Jules Leotard. And I'm wondering if that's where
Well, duh.
the word trapeze comes from the Latin word trapezium, a geometrical four-sided figure that is mimicked by the shape made by the ceiling, ropes, and bar in a trapeze.
So you're okay with telling us that Latin, Karen, but not the Latin than the Hammer films. You're not okay with that?
Yes, that's the truth.
All right.
So Cleo is a trapeze artist.
And then we see Hans and Frida, and Cleopatra finishes her show and she comes backstage, I guess, and she drops her cape in front of Hans and he picks it up and puts it back on her.
We can see that Hans is infatuated. And Frida has noticed and says that she's a little jealous. And he's like, don't be silly. There's only one woman I love, and it's you who I asked to marry and all that. But Cleo knows that Hans is infatuated with her and is leading him on.
But Venus is hotter, Karen. So I don't know why he's all up in Cleo's business.
I think Venus is a lot younger.
Whatever. But
and they're German.
Yeah. Hans asks if she is laughing at him, and she says no at one point. Like she giggles or something. I think she's trying to be cute, using her feminine wiles, Karen, I think. So Cleopatra tells Hans to come see her sometime, and they will share some wine. Next, we see two men walking through the woods.
This is part of what I felt was unnecessary, but
they come upon a group of sideshow performers, ? I wrote. The men tell them they are trespassing.
One man tells them they're trespassing. So it's kind of a two-sided argument. One man is saying he saw these horrible things, and the other guy's like, what were you drinking? And, and then when they come up upon them, the one guy is disgusted and the other one is, it's fine. You're welcome to stay.
And they run into Madame Petroloni. She tells the men are children from her circus. She calls them children, but because she thinks of them as her children, right?
Right.
She takes care of them.
She takes them out to exercise and get some sun.
Men let them stay. So then we cut to the circus. Cleopatra thanks Hans for the flowers he sent her, and then immediately asks him for money. She needs more francs.
Okay. Yeah, she wants 1,000 francs. But before that, there's one of the jokes. So there's one of the performers is half man, half woman, as you mentioned briefly before. And
I suppose, Karen.
Well, they walk by the strong man, and one of the other performers says, I think she likes you, but he doesn't. Meaning the two sides. Like, it was just, I thought it was kind of funny. It's supposed to be a joke. But yes, she thanks him for the flowers and immediately says, can she have 1,000 more francs? Which I tried to figure out what it was worth at 1932, but I couldn't figure it out. She's waiting, she says, for money from
Too
Paris.
Much math, Karen.
Because francs don't exist anymore, so it was just difficult to figure out. I found a couple sites, but it wouldn't calculate it for me. It didn't seem like a lot, but back then it probably was. She does kiss his cheek, and he's going to bring the money to her wagon that night.
And Hans is always very well groomed. I will say that.
Exactly. Very polite.
So then we see who we learn is Hercules, I guess, breaking up with his girlfriend, Venus.
Yeah, I thought that was Cleopatra at first. They look very similar. Blonde hair, small frame.
So Venus storms off and runs into Frozzo, the clown, and she kind of like takes it out on him, I wrote.
But then she apologizes to him when he comes in. She says it's her own fault. She fell for the big hunk of beef.
And Frozzo tells her she should have caught him before he got his operation, which I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. But as he takes his makeup off, he's a handsome young man, I thought.
Yeah.
So they're
His name is Wallace.
Oh, well, there you go.
His first name is Wallace, but
they make a nice couple together. He's a very sensitive, caring guy.
And I thought the same thing, actually. I'm like, well, he's a good looking dude.
Throughout the film, he shows that he's empathetic, kind, all the things that she should have fallen in love with instead of the, what does she call it? The big hunk of beef.
Mm-hmm. So then we see Siamese twins conjoined at the hip, I think.
Yes. Violet and Daisy.
Yeah, and one of them is engaged to marry Roscoe, the stuttering clown, who's, I think, is like comic relief through the whole thing, or is supposed to be.
Yes.
So then we see Hercules goes to pay a visit to Cleopatra. They kissy face.
Yeah, he
just don't take long.
No, it doesn't.
He moves right along.
Which is weird because they do seem like
he is on the rebound, Karen.
True. But when they talk about their plan and everything, it seems like they've been developing it for a while, but he was with Venus. So it's weird. Maybe time has passed and we didn't know it.
And then they see the half man, half woman watching them through the window or something. And Hercules goes out there and punches him/her.
Yeah, it was us. Oh, that was a little brutal.
And he punched him/her on her female side, too. Guess because he's right-handed, but whatever.
When Hercules is in with Cleo, there's a little comic relief there because he says, I'm not very hungry because she's cooking eggs. And he says, I'm not very hungry. I only want 6. And then he pours a drink and he says, Prosit, which is a German expression when you toast to your health. We say Nostrovia in Poland. So I thought that was
Probst.
What is it?
Probst.
That's not what he says.
Well, that's what the saying is.
Well, I'm sure it's different in all kinds of countries, right? But they're kissy facing. They are like all in. But then we cut to Hans and Frida, and she's yelling at him for smoking a cigar because his voice was not in fine form.
So Hans and Frida have an argument. Hans goes to see.
Well, he says, I'm the man. If I want to smoke a cigar, I'll smoke a cigar. It's just
I'm
funny.
A grown man. I will do what I want.
Yes.
I've said that many times, Karen. Believe it or not.
Probably didn't work out well for you.
It worked out fine, Karen. So then he knocks on Cleopatra's trailer door and Hercules is in there. So she tells Hans that she is taking a bath, asks if he can come back, and then she goes back and kissy faces with Hercules some more.
Yeah, it's rude.
So then we cut to, I think it's the next day, I guess, Venus and Frida, as Frida's hanging up her unmentionables on the clothesline.
She is hanging up her unmentionables, doing her laundry.
And they talk about Hans and Cleopatra.
Yeah, and she's telling Venus how Cleopatra just says, thank you, my darling, for the flowers right in front of Frida. She's rubbing it in Frida's face, basically. And Frida says he's always giving her something.
Then we see men making fun of Cleopatra, and Hans gets upset. She goes over and asks him to rub her back, and he does. And the men all laugh. I think the men know what's going on.
Everybody knows, I think.
Yeah, they do. I think the whole circus knows. So then we cut to Venus and Frozzo. And apparently he had a dream about her, Karen.
Very detailed and long. She was on the beach on a rock in her swimsuit. The wind was blowing her hair and the waves were splashing around her. And her figure looked great.
Then someone comes along and says, the bearded lady baby is born. So they all run off to see the bearded lady's baby.
Is this where there's a little comic relief where Frozzo has a new costume and he tells Venus to hit him on the head with a mallet and she does, and his head disappears into the costume he's wearing?
I think.
Yeah, but yes, they all run off to see the bearded lady's baby.
And then we cut to the Siamese twins, I guess, again.
Well, we see, it is a girl that the bearded lady had. And then we see the father of the new baby passing out cigars. And he has very skinny arms and legs, like maybe he's a contortionist or something. He's
the human skeleton, I think, is what his thing is. This is when we have our montage of different performers going about their day. The next thing I have is Hans giving Cleopatra champagne in the trailer.
So Hans keeps buying her presents, and he had her fruit delivered from Paris, but she doesn't really like fruit. So she says to Hercules, next time I'm going to make him get champagne. And we see her and she has the champagne. So we can see that she is using him. So actually, I looked up the origin of the expression gold digger, because that's basically what you would describe her, wouldn't you think?
Yep.
It started off as 20th century slang, first entered print in Rex Beach's 1911 book, The Ne'er-do-Well, and was used to refer to people who were money mad. While it did have the gendered connotation at this point, the American suffragist Virginia Brooke, in her 1915 book, My Battles with Vice, specifically referred to women who sought romantic relationships with men as gold diggers. They were presented as highly manipulative and dressed provocatively, which fits her in this particular movie.
Then we cut to Frozzo and Venus, and they kissy face, and apparently Frozzo's had a crush on her for a while, Karen.
Is that where they were supposed to have a date, but he forgot?
Yep. He was working on his bathtub prop.
Yes, because he got so involved with his artistic vision that he forgot. But he's a very likable character.
So then we cut to the Siamese twins, and Violet agrees to marry the circus's owner.
Oh, is that who that was?
That's who that was, according to what I read.
Wasn't explained in the story. It just looked like a well-to-do or more well-to-do man. So she agrees to marry the circus owner, and the other sister has agreed to marry Roscoe. And the circus owner says, well, you can come and visit us sometimes. And Roscoe was like, well, you can come and visit us sometimes, because you realize they can't be separated, obviously. So some of the time. And the other interesting thing that I thought was kind of funny, while the circus owner is talking to Violet, Daisy is, honest to God, just sitting there reading a book, like she's not interested at all in what's going on over there. But when they kiss, when Violet kisses the circus owner, Daisy reacts too. Like she smiles, like this is nice. So because earlier one of the guys pinches one of them and the other one feels, they had her close her eyes and she felt wherever it was. So they definitely feel each other's feelings, is what they want us to know.
No, you stupid.
It was, but I just thought it was funny. Well, you can come and visit us.
Supposed they were trying to be funny, but I thought it was stupid.
No, it wasn't. It didn't hit well. But the funny part was, well, you come and visit us sometimes. The guy's like, wait a minute.
And actually, as I'm watching these two, I'm thinking they probably they don't share any vital organs, right?
I don't know.
They could be separated.
Back then, maybe not.
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody would end up without legs.
They both had two legs.
They did? That's right.
They were like conjoined at the hip or the side or something.
Yeah, I don't
maybe
know.
they shared a kidney or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I just don't think it was done back then.
Okay.
It's much more complicated than you think with all the capillaries, and you can't just, I mean, you can, but I think you want to make sure you save the skin and the flesh. Like if you kill everything and blood doesn't get to it anymore, you'll get necrosis and parts of people will fall off. It's complicated surgery. Even it would be easiest with no shared organs, and that's got to be easier than when they're joined at the chest. I've seen that. I should have looked up when the first surgery for that was.
So then Frida goes to see Hans. He says he's sorry, did not want to hurt her. She tries to tell Hans that Cleopatra is taking advantage of him, and they all laugh at him, and he's basically the joke of the whole circus or whatever.
But he's in love. He can't see past any of that.
But in the end, she just wants him to be happy.
She does. She's selfless.
So then we see Cleopatra, and I'm just going to start calling her Cleo because apparently I can't say Cleopatra. So Cleo and Hercules looking at the necklace that Hans has given her.
She's wondering how much it's worth.
It's platinum.
He does say that. And he says, well, we got 500 for the bracelet he gave you. This must be worth thousands. So they're already selling the stuff that he's buying her. She says, next time I'm going to ask for a fur coat. So then there's a knock at the door while Hercules is with Cleo. And she says, it's Hans. I know his knock. So Hercules runs and hides, but it's Frida.
Yep. Frida confronts Cleo. Cleo learns that Hans has inherited a fortune.
Yeah, Frida lets that slip.
So then she leaves, and Cleo and Hercules devise a plan. She will marry Hans. Cut to the wedding feast, Karen. That's what it says on the screen. The wedding feast. We have words
Yeah.
to read.
It didn't say how long it took, but obviously not long. Hans is besotted. He is head over heels. Nobody can
What?
talk to him. He loves this
He's
woman,
what?
Cleo. Besotted.
Huh? I don't know what that is.
Can't talk to him. He's in love.
Okay.
Nobody's going to tell him any different. But they do rally behind him and have the wedding feast with him, his friends and fellow performers.
And we see Cleo poisoning his wine.
Yes. And telling him, drink more, just like in The Love Witch when she said, drink all of it, my darling. Again, if someone's telling you to drink more, or drink all of it, my darling, say no. Just walk away.
Then I wrote different performers perform, and Cleo and Hercules kiss.
Yes, right in front of everyone.
Yeah, Cleo seems like she's had too much to drink, so
she's a little intoxicated.
Yeah, she's being a little
over the top.
cray.
Yeah, laughing.
She starts running her mouth, and everyone laughs at her. But then the sideshow performers say they accept Cleo and will make her one of them. Gobble, 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 gobble. One of us. Right?
Yes.
But Cleo seems horrified.
It's a little disturbing, the scene, but the way they're chanting. But yeah, they're going to accept her, and that freaks her the hell out.
And they all drinking from a very large goblet, Karen, I wrote. And they give it to Cleo to take a drink, and she doesn't, calls them freaks and throws the wine on them or whatever they're drinking in the goblet.
Yes. She calls them dirty and slimy freaks and to get out of there. And then she throws the drink on the man who was holding it. She's very offended that she would be one of them. And then she starts to yell at Hans, are you a man or are you a baby?
And they start making fun of him.
Well, he says, you're embarrassing me. And she freaks out. I'm embarrassing you. And then she goes off. And then is this where Hercules puts Hans on Cleo's shoulders, and they run around the table. And you can see him. He's mortified at that point.
Next, we see Cleo and Hercules trying to apologize to Hans. They say they were drunk and just having a little fun. It was just jokes. We're just joking.
Just jokes. And he is holding his stomach.
He is. And he's kind of like spinning and uneven. And then he collapses. And Cleo carries him to his trailer. Next day, doctor comes and tells them that Hans was poisoned. Immediately, everyone is suspicious of Cleopatra.
Yeah, but she doesn't poison him like all the way. She actually gives him something to help him recover. And the doctor says you saved his life by giving him some kind of water. I can't remember. Mustard water. It probably makes you throw up, I would guess. But the doctor called it ptomaine poisoning, which I looked up, and that's just what we in general call, it's food poisoning caused by bacteria or bacterial products, which is what, when we get food poisoning, that's what we say we had. So he's basically saying he has food poisoning, but a very bad case of it.
Then Venus confronts Hercules. She tells him that Cleo better tell the doctor what she put in his drink. She threatens to go to the police.
Yep, she's going to the cops.
And all the other little performers are around the camp watching underneath their trailers or whatnot. And they don't look happy, Karen. I'd be scared if I was Hercules.
Didn't look good for Hercules. And he's looking around, seeing all this stuff.
1 week later, because Hans says it's been a week since they've been married. Hans is, I guess, bedridden, apparently, and he apologizes to Cleo for saying those bad things to her on their wedding night. But then Cleo says she must give him his medicine, and she gives him more poison. But Hans spits it out into his handkerchief.
He's very smart. He's figured it all out.
Yep. Cleo leaves. The others watch as Cleo goes to see Hercules. Then Hans and the others begin to plot against Cleo, making a plan. Then we see the circus trailers traveling through a storm.
Yeah, it looks like they're leaving. And Hans does repeat dirty, slimy freaks. So they are definitely, as you said, plotting the revenge. But yeah, it's a thunderstorm. And the performers are under the wagons, but the wagons are moving out with horses pulling them. It's very muddy.
Then we see Frida warning Frozo.
That Hercules said Venus knows too much.
Yeah.
So Venus is going to be in trouble because Hercules is going to hurt her for knowing too much.
Next thing I have is Cleo and Hercules saying that Venus knows too much.
Yeah.
Cleo goes to give Hans his medicine again, but Hans says, "Give me that little black bottle."
He sits up and swings his feet over the side of the bed. He's perfectly fine.
The other circus performers in the trailer there pull knives and guns and just start shining them up.
Just polishing them up.
Just cleaning them. And then Hans confronts Cleo. Next, we see Hercules breaking into Venus's trailer as it's traveling.
Yes, it's very dramatic. He's busting out the door.
But Frozo grabs him from behind and they fight.
And the rain's coming down.
So then Cleo's trailer turns over in the storm. It hits a rut or whatever and a ditch, whatever. She runs away, escaping the circus performers with their knives and guns. It's actually a German Luger, I think, is what the guy had.
But Frozo says to her, run. You know, he's detaining Hercules and who wanted to hurt her, and he's telling her to run.
No. This is Cleo runs from the trailer.
Oh, what did I say?
You were thinking about Venus.
Venus ran too, didn't she?
No,
she got out. And then we switched to Cleo running from the trailer. Yes, in the rain. And they're following her. Yes.
Then we see Frozo and Hercules fighting underneath the trailer. One of the little people I wrote threw a knife hitting Hercules.
Well, Hercules had the advantage and was choking Frozo, but not anymore.
Yeah. Frozo gets away as the others close in on Hercules with knives. They're creeping up on him with their knives.
Yes, they're crawling through the mud and rain. That's probably, like I said, the most dramatic horror scene in the whole thing, because they are going after him to basically what we think is kill him with their knives.
Then we see Cleo running through the woods, chased by the circus performers.
And Hans is chasing her. He's in that group. You only see a flash of it, but he's there.
Good for Hans.
Well, it's just something Frida says later.
Then we're back to the circus barker, back to the beginning, Karen. And we see that Cleo is now a duck woman.
I think she's tarred and feathered, and her legs and hands are gone. And she's clucking. I think she's a chicken. But
apparently they cut her tongue out from what I read. But anyway, so then we cut to Hans in his mansion, his palatial estate.
He is in a nice mansion. It's the library, I think.
Yeah, his butler comes and tells him that someone is there to see him, but he doesn't want to see anyone. He sees no one.
It's been years, I think, at this point, right? Yes.
But Frozo, Venus, and Frida enter. Frida comforts Hans, and she professes her love for him.
But one thing she says when she's comforting him is, you did try to stop it. You just wanted the poison bottle. But if you see, it's a very quick flash, but he's in light clothing and the other performers aren't. You do see him chasing her. At least I think so. But she's comforting him and saying, it wasn't your fault. You tried to stop it, but I don't think he did. And then she says, I love you. And that's the end.
The end credits. So apparently some versions don't have that at the end.
That last scene.
Yeah, they just end with Cleo is the duck.
Would have been a fine ending too. Yeah. But then this way you get Frida and Hans back together, I guess.
Yeah, so apparently Cleo's tongue has been removed, one eye has been gouged out, and the flesh of her hands has been melted and deformed to look like duck feet. And her legs have been cut out. And she's been permanently tarred and feathered.
Pretty brutal.
And in the original version of the film, it's revealed that after they caught Hercules, they made him into a castrato singer. The hell is that?
Castrato, maybe,
Castrato singer.
where he can sing falsetto.
Yeah, so basically he was castrated.
But
There you
that's
go.
not in there at all.
No, it's not. The end credits.
Well, it's one of our most controversial films.
All right, Karen, what'd you think of the Bearded Lady cocktail?
Well, I already went out of order and told you I liked it. I thought it was a very ladylike drink. The Bearded Lady certainly is not in this film very long. If they hadn't done that little...
Yeah, she's only in it laying in a bed with the baby.
I know she doesn't even have a line, but there was a bearded lady, so I do get
There was.
So about the bearded lady, in some cases, female beard growth is a result of a hormonal imbalance, usually androgen excess, which testosterone is an androgen, or a rare genetic disorder known as hypertrichosis.
Bearded Lady is okay, the drink. Mine is evaporated.
What's your problem with it?
I think it's a little too much lemon.
I just squeezed a half into mine, so maybe I didn't get the full amount. I just,
I measured 3/4 of an ounce, Karen.
It looked like a lot. I like it. It's one of my favorites.
A little too much lemon for me. I mean, it's fine, but probably do without the lemon. It's evaporated. But I don't know.
Well, you're a trooper. I really like this one. Like I said, it looks like a feminine drink that you would have at a baby shower, a wedding shower,
Shower.
or a brunch. If you don't like champagne, where most people drink mimosas, this would be a good alternative.
Or a bath, Karen. I bet you could drink it in a bath, in a bubble bath.
With your bath bomb and your face mask on.
With candles
Yes.
all around.
All right, I'll give that a try.
All right. Anything we learned today, Karen?
Well, we just learned about bearded ladies, ptomaine poisoning, about the short story Spurs, which this was sort of based on, Todd Browning's early life, where the first trapeze was invented and when, what a gold digger is. I think that's it.
That's all I got, Karen.
That's pretty good for the short movie.
Yep. Are we ready to move on to next week's film, Karen?
Yes, I can't wait to hear what you've got for us.
Film I have chosen is from 1966, Karen.
It's a Hammer film, isn't it?
It's a Hammer film, Karen.
It's 1966.
Starring Christopher Lee.
It's been a while.
It's called Rasputin the Mad Monk.
Oh my. Interesting. Why did you pick that one?
Because it was released on March 6th, which is when that episode will be live, Karen. So we're celebrating its anniversary.
Awesome. Do you have a drink to go with it?
I do, Karen.
Excellent. What is that?
It's probably one of the simplest drinks we've ever had. It's called the Red Russian.
So it's got vodka and
Cherry liqueur.
vodka and cherry liqueur. That's it.
That's it.
That's like the Love Witch had berry juice and vodka.
This is cherry liqueur. We're going to need 1.5 ounces of vodka and 3/4 ounce of cherry liqueur. So it's a small drink. We're going to use an aperitif glass, whatever the hell that is, Karen. Should know by now, but stir over ice and
I think that's
strain
got the
into an
stem.
aperitif glass.
I think it's the stem with the little
I think
bell
you're right.
top on.
I think you're right. All right. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, I have to thank our listener. You have so many podcasts to choose from. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
I'm going to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
Music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.